The mystery that shouldn't exist in 2026. 3 professions that were supposed to be safe collapsed into the same financial trap. Police officers, the backbone of public order. Doctors, the highest skilled healers in society. Soldiers, backed by the full power of the state. Different uniforms, different missions, different risks. Yet somehow, all 3 ended up drowning in the same kind of debt, under the same financial pressure, with the same invisible leash tightening around their lives. Here's the mystery. How did the people paid by governments, insured by institutions, and praised as essential, end up more financially fragile than the average worker? This story isn't about bad budgeting. It isn't about personal failure. And it isn't a coincidence. By the end of this video, you'll see how a system designed to reward stability quietly turns stability into dependence, and dependence into permanent debt, setting the stage, the promise that built the trap to understand what happened in 2026. We have to go back decades to a promise that shaped modern society. After World War II, governments made a deal with certain professions. If you serve the state, the promise went, the state will take care of you. Police were promised pensions, job security, and housing assistance. Doctors were promised prestige, high income, and guaranteed demand. Soldiers were promised benefits, lifelong support, and honor-backed stability. This promise did 2 powerful things. First, it attracted people into these professions. Second, and more importantly, it encouraged debt. Why save aggressively if your pension is guaranteed? Why avoid loans if your income is stable? Why worry about interests if the state always pays on time? Banks noticed this immediately. By the 1980s and 1990s, financial institutions had quietly labeled these professions as low risk, high reliability borrowers. And that label changed everything. Origins. When stability became collateral, the first phase of the trap was subtle. Police officers were offered special mortgages, low down payments, long terms, service-friendly rates. Doctors were offered education loans that dwarfed normal student debt, justified by future earnings. Soldiers were offered housing loans, relocation financing, and benefit-backed credit. None of this felt dangerous. In fact, it felt responsible. Debt was framed not as risk, but as reward for service. But behind the scenes, something critical had shifted. These professions were no longer valued just for what they did. They were valued for how predictable their paychecks were. That predictability allowed banks to do something powerful. They didn't just lend money, they designed lives around debt repayment. The rise. How debt grew faster than income. As the years passed, the system expanded. Doctors entered the workforce, already 6 or 7 figures in debt. Police officers bought homes priced for 2 incomes, not 1. Soldiers took on loans, assuming promotions and benefits would continue forever. Then came the 2008 crisis. Governments rescued banks. Interest rates were slashed. Debt became cheap. This should have helped. Instead, it accelerated the trap. Low interest rates didn't reduce borrowing, they increased it. Asset prices rose faster than wages. Housing, education, and healthcare costs exploded. The same professions that were supposed to be protected were now forced to borrow more just to stand still. And because their incomes were guaranteed, they were approved for larger loans than anyone else. Stability became leverage. The breaking point, 2026 by 2026. The cracks became impossible to hide. Inflation surged, but wages lagged behind. Pensions were quietly restructured. Overtime budgets were cut. Healthcare systems pushed doctors into contract work. Military benefits were delayed, reduced, or privatized. But the debt didn't adjust. Mortgage payments stayed fixed. Student loan balances grew. Interest quietly reset upward. Police officers began taking second jobs not for luxuries, but for basics. Doctors delayed families, sold assets, or left public systems entirely. Soldiers re-enlisted not out of patriotism, but because civilian life couldn't absorb their debt. This is when the truth surfaced. These professions weren't protected anymore. They were financially cornered. Fallout. When essential workers can't afford life, the consequences spread quickly. Police departments faced resignations and staffing shortages. Hospitals lost experienced doctors to burnout and bankruptcy. Military readiness suffered as retention dropped. But the most disturbing effect wasn't operational, it was psychological. Debt changed behavior. Police avoided protests against budget cuts. Doctors hesitated to challenge hospital systems. Soldiers avoided speaking out about conditions. Not because they didn't care, but because debt punished dissent. When your mortgage, loans, and benefits are tied to institutional approval, rebellion becomes expensive. Debt didn't just extract money, it extracted silence. Failed fixes. WHY reforms didn't work. Governments tried to respond. Loan forgiveness programs were announced. Interest caps were debated. Temporary relief packages were rolled out. But none of these fixed the core problem. Why? Because the system wasn't broken. It was working exactly as designed. Debt relief addressed symptoms, not structure. Forgiveness was slow, partial, and conditional. New debt replaced old debt almost immediately. The pipeline never stopped. As long as stability equals borrowability and borrowability equals profit, the trap resets itself. Modern parallels. The pattern repeats. This isn't just about police, doctors, and soldiers. The same pattern is now spreading to teachers with guaranteed salaries, engineers in government-backed sectors, civil servants tied to benefit systems. The formula is always the same. Promise stability, encourage, borrowing inflate costs, freeze wages, lock dissent, behind debt. By 2026, global household debt reached historic highs while real purchasing power fell. More people worked secure jobs, yet fewer felt financially safe. That's not an accident. It's a feature of a debt-driven economy. The deeper truth, what this story is really about, this story isn't about money. It's about control. Debt works best when it feels voluntary, when it's framed as opportunity, when it's attached to pride, service, and responsibility. Police were told they were heroes. Doctors were told they were elite. Soldiers were told they were protected. But the system never protected people. It protected payments. 3 takeaways. Takeaway number 1. Stable income doesn't mean financial freedom. It often means deeper leverage. Takeaway number 2. Debt tied to identity is the hardest debt to escape because leaving feels like betrayal. Takeaway number 3. When essential workers are financially trapped, society itself becomes fragile. Final warning and an open question. If the people who enforce laws, heal bodies, and defend nations are trapped by debt, what chance does everyone else have? And here's the question worth sitting with. In a world where stability is used as collateral, is debt the new chain or the new uniform? Call to action. If this story changed how you see debt, work, or secure jobs, share this video with someone who still believes stability equals safety. Subscribe for deeper investigations into money, power, and the systems shaping your future. Because the most dangerous traps are the ones that look like rewards, and once you see them, you can't unsee them.
If you like this video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video. Bye for now.